Good morning. This is Dr. Laura. Welcome to the Higher View. So today I have some special guests on that we're going to talk about. You know, a few weeks ago, I did a show with Reverend Michael Kukuru about the 50 Shades of Gray. And today we're going to talk about a specific grief that as a parent, none of us ever want to have to go through. And that's the transition of a child. Especially when it's any transition of a child would be difficult, but especially when you're not expecting it. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Vickie Ruff and Candy Jackson to the Higher View. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Laura.
So let me just give you a little background. Vickie Ruff is a practitioner at Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert. I've known Vickie for years. Our children grew up together, played t-ball and baseball, and Vickie's son Garrett and my sons were very close. Went through high school together. They partied at my house. Garrett partied at my house with my sons, and Vickie. Anyway, Vickie, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point because this has been a journey for me traveling this with Vickie and what she went through. So Vickie at our center leads a group called Helping Parents Heal. And it's specifically for parents who have lost a child. So Vickie, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of explain what you've been going through and just how you got involved in this program and so forth. So why don't you start and tell everybody kind of your story?
Okay. I was always interested in soul searching. I had lost my father at 6 years old, and other relatives. Uncle died. I mean, it was norm for me, and I think my father used to protect me by being by my side. I talked to him all the time. That was my playmate, and even when something would happen, I asked my father all the time.
Yes, but you didn't make clear that your father had made his transition, Vickie, when you were doing this.
Oh, yes.
He already made his transition when you were, yes. How old were you?
So I was open for more, but
Right.
never did, with all the studying I did, was I prepared for that phone call I received saying Garrett's gone. And one of his good friends called. We had celebrated his birthday the night before. We had such a fun time. We were planning his wedding, and I get a phone call at 9:00 that evening after, and Keith said that Garrett is gone. And I thought, what do you mean gone? You don't know. What do you mean gone? Where'd he go? And he said, no, Vickie, he's gone. And I said, okay, where? And he said, he's dead. Well, that was like I turned off. Welcome, Karen Crawford is now joining us.
Finally, I'm sorry, my computer decided to update all of its things this morning. So
You're here. That's important. Anyway, so I don't remember much of that night. I did drive over to the apartment, and my husband was with me. And I don't even know where I parked. I don't remember seeing the coroner. I was already there, and the sheriff. I don't remember seeing anything. I was greeted by his buddies, their twins, Keith and Kyle, who identified the body. They wouldn't let me see him. I got to hug him later, but not see him. He was on the gurney. And there was about 8 more boys in the parking lot waiting to say their goodbyes. So it was a shock, and you go in such a dark place because you're not really thinking that. So I went through every phase, and some people would say, that's enough, get over it. And nobody should ever say it to anybody because there's no time on this journey. I think you're in a dark place and it lightens up as we go along. But I feel very lucky because my son knew I believed in afterlife. He did not believe it. He did call it Hoopa Loopa, making fun of me. But if he wanted something, he'd say, would you do your Hoopa Loopa? And so when he had passed, he kissed me on my cheek. And whether anybody believes it or not, when you're in this group, all of us believe because we want to hear from our child so badly that you're in tune. You're ready for things. And Garrett did yell out, "Mom," and he kissed me. And ever since, he has come in different ways. I was most concerned that people were going to forget about him, but he came to all of us the day that it spread all over like wildfire on Facebook. The kids were all in shock. We were all in shock. And he came to all of us as a hummingbird. I mean, it was like crazy when I was telling my aunt, the hummingbird was between my aunt and I, and we're going like this, dodging it. So he still comes. It's been 2.5, almost 3 years. May 1st will be his 3rd year. And it's fun because when it comes, you see the hummingbird and it stands there looking at you. So you know it's for you. And it's like, "Hi, Garrett." And so it makes me feel good when people tell me their stories. And he has come and made great stories to a lot of his friends. But I'm going to introduce, and my story I can always tell. I'd like to throw it over to Karen because Karen might have to leave a little early.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for
Hi, Karen.
the opportunity to be on your show.
It's nice to have you here, Karen. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. So I'm sorry I came in a little late. I apologize. And I
No.
would you, so just to get caught up, what would you like?
Well,
Me
just kind of your story, because
Okay.
how did you get attracted or find out about the group too? That
It's
Vickie
very odd, and believing in things happen for a reason. I have a mutual friend that works for a lady who owns a weight loss center, and I believe Vickie is friends with her. And Vickie had a handwritten note about the group meeting. I believe it was sometime in December. And I called her, and her description of what, the group was about was just so intriguing to me because it wasn't necessarily a grieving arrangement. It was more about learning how to communicate with your child on the other side, which is something we're all so hungry for every day.
Right.
And that was so refreshing, and it's just been a wonderful source of support and information and love, and it's just tremendous.
Oh, well, that's great. And Candy, you're muted.
Hi.
Unmute Candy. Hi, Candy. So how did you find the group, and how has it helped you?
So I 6 months ago, my daughter transitioned by a drive-by shooting. Quite a traumatic experience.
Oh.
She was 43 and has 3 children here, and so what naturally happens in that type of a transition is that there are a lot of people that outreach from gun violence, parents of murdered children. I mean, these are lots of organizations that are really healing, or great support for people. And a lot of them reached out to me, and I did kind of my due diligence, and we did dove into them, and none of them felt right to me. None of them. Although if they feel right to someone else, I don't want to take that from them, because we all have our own journey and it's all different for all of us. But I needed something else. Like Karen and Vickie, I needed to connect with my child. I mean, I wasn't like, "Oh, this is new normal. You'll get over it one day. It's a horrible." I thought, no, it's not. It's a new relationship. And very similar to Vickie, I grew up, fortunately for me, my grandmother, Science Mind was her book on her bookshelf that she read to me when I'd stay the night. So I had a very young introduction to spiritual ideas, thoughts. My brother had transitioned, both parents, my grandparents, and I had a lot of communication with family members following their transition. So unlike a lot of parents, I expected my daughter. I expected to have, but there were no organizations that supported that. They're just, you know, they don't support that. They feed the pain, or they, you know, in my view, that's how they do it. And then helping parents heal, I ran across it by actually this book. I don't know if you can see. It's a book that changed things for me, and it was a book on how to communicate with your child that had transitioned. And in there, it listed Helping Parents Heal as an organization. And I thought, any organization that supports a book that is going to help you to connect with your child, I want a part of that. Now, the lovely thing about that organization is they have affiliate leaders, which Vickie is an affiliate leader. So I reached out to her on a weekend at night, and she called me back like she does everybody, because she's that kind of compassionate, loving person. And, you know, it's just maybe, I don't know, 10 days after my daughter had passed, Vickie. It was very soon after her transition. But I had her on the phone, and just within seconds knew I found, you know, the village of parents that were going to heal and healing through the connection of their children. And that's what we all do. And it's pretty awesome. So.
Right. Well, I love this because, you know, in our teaching, we call it transition of life, you know, and that's what I know that growing up, because I had been raised, you know, in a different philosophy. And, you know, when you died, you either went to heaven or hell or purgatory, and that was it. You know, that was it. This was your one shot at life. And so what we believe is that life is eternal. And it is funny, and we'll get into that. I'd like to hear what signs you get. But I know when my husband made his transition, it's not a child, but I remember that day in church, you know, acknowledging him, and I was so great. We were separated at the time, but I still always loved him, and we just couldn't live together. But anyway, that day when I was leaving church, this big yellow butterfly. Well, first I smelled cigarette smoke. My husband smoked. And all of a sudden this big yellow butterfly like flew right by my face, and the smoke, and there was nobody around me to be smoking. So I knew that was him telling me, you see a yellow butterfly, that's me. And so when Vickie told me about the hummingbird, and you know, and I just want to share with you, because I've known Vickie for years. The story, she'll be at a stoplight and she'll be sad and she'll be thinking about it. And a hummingbird will come to the car and be there. I'm sorry, I've never been driving where a hummingbird comes to me when I'm in my car. And so that really, I mean, I've known Vickie, like I said, for years. And I remember one of the first stories she shared with me was when she still does it. I know she does. She drives by his apartment building and parks out there when she needs that connection. And she was calling about his student loans to tell them that he had made his transition, and she was having a really hard time, and she was crying. And a hummingbird stayed with her the whole time, right outside of her window. Vickie, you're muted. Unmute her, Krista. Oh, you muted yourself.
40 minutes.
40 minutes?
And that hummingbird did not leave me. He went to my front windshield. He went to the side. And Garrett makes sure that we all know he's around. Even your son came to your son. You want to tell the story?
We were going somewhere, and I was backing my car out of the garage, and I thought I hit my other son, because all I saw all of a sudden were legs up in the air, and he's on the ground, and I go, what the heck? He goes, Mom. So I think Garrett came right in his face. He's this hummingbird, like right in my face, and wouldn't go, and he jumped back and slipped. So every time we see a hummingbird, yeah. So ladies, don't you? So Candy, what signs do you get from your daughter, or what experiences have you had with that?
Well, Karen has.
Are you asking me, Dr. Laura?
I don't care. I want to hear from both of you. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Candy, you want? My son, the night of his accident, it was immediate. And my daughter, we didn't get the news until 11:15 at night, but he transitioned at 6:30 p.m. And it was a horrific accident. And I guess they had a hard time finding us. But it's that dreaded, when the police department shows up at your door late at night to deliver the news. And my youngest daughter came over, and we were all in my bedroom, my husband and her and myself, and we were very upset and crying. And all of a sudden, my chandelier starts swinging on its own. This is the chandelier right here.
Oh, wow.
And the ball, the heavy ball on the end is like giving it. And I looked at it and I said, it's him. Immediately, it was like I knew that he was trying to contact. And I started talking to him. And since then, he has done things like turn water bottles up on their heads. He has put, he's thrown buckets off of shelves in our path. He will repeatedly play his song. It was he and his brother's favorite song. He played with his father's phone, would turn on his Pandora in his pocket, which is a locked phone. I mean, it just so many things. And I think that is, Dr. Laura, for all of us, it's like, okay. And, the conscious mind wants to second guess it. But I think if we can move past that hurdle and embrace it, that it's just as real as the physical existence, then, we're on an amazing path.
We are. And what's amazing? Now, this isn't really, I just want for people who don't know anything about science mind, this isn't really what we focus on.
Right.
But we believe in the eternality of life. We had James Von Prague at our center a few years ago, and he said when we make our transition, it's just like stepping over a line, and everybody's with it. There's this other reality going on around us that we don't see. But when we open our hearts and our minds to that connection, we feel it. And that's what he talked about. He talked about the fact that when we make our transition and they have the celebration of life or funeral, whatever you guys we call it celebration of life. They come because they want to see who's there. They want to see what's said. He told a story about a lady that had made her transition, and she looked in the coffin and she said, "They know I hate that dress. I can't believe they're burying my body in that."
Right.
So, it's also confirmation for them that they have died. A lot of them don't believe.
Oh.
And told me, Garrett said, no, I made a mistake. I don't want to go now. I don't want to go now. And they say they come back and it solidifies that it's real. I'm gone now and on another journey. And it's a beautiful journey. And it helps us to believe in all of this and to know this. And that's what we're trying to get across because it's so helpful for everybody. Not that it's not painful still. We'd rather have them. But we all get our stories. But
right. No, yeah, that connection, and so I love the sign that you got. That is really neat. What about you, Candy?
I have now a book of signs because I was getting so many signs from my daughter that I couldn't remember all of them. I have actually on my phone, I have 72 signs that I've gotten in 6 months. That's just on my phone that I've taken screenshots of. And my daughter is brilliant with clouds. She has sent, I don't know if you can see this. Oh, you can kind of. Can you see that? It's an angel. Can you see that?
Oh. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. It was huge too. I'm surprised they didn't have the desert sun out there, and because it was enormous. This enormous angel. That was just a couple days after her transition. My husband is a musician, and she put a enormous guitar in the sky. I mean, a guitar. And I don't know if any of you locals saw the heart that a skywriter had put in this. But my daughter had us go out and look at it, and it was around the moon. So I'm the only one I've seen that has a picture of that heart with the moon right in the center, a full moon. But she's amazing with clouds. I have numerous clouds from her. There is a group that has a sign of the week, and you're to ask your child, and we can ask our kids for signs. They'll give them to us, but they're not always the way you think they're going to come up. And the age of the child, my daughter was 43, so she's more about music and clouds and butterflies and hummingbirds and so forth. But the younger kids, for people that have younger children that have transitioned, they're really into electronics. Or like in Karen's case, her son, he's more the adventurous guy, and it's like, I'm going to make the chandelier go. They have their ways of communicating with us, and it's all different. And so my daughter's huge with animals. Really crazy things happened to me at the Living Desert. Even the zookeepers have said, I have never seen that animal do that. The Joey came out of my daughter was a doula, so she delivered babies, hundreds of them.
Wow.
So I have a lot of signs that have to do with babies and baby animals. And I was in the Australian section, and the Joey came out of the pouch right when I was standing there, and they were so excited. And I didn't know that this is the first time the Joey had come out of the pouch, but we know my daughter had everything to do with that. But yeah, I could take up your whole show talking about her signs, but I have actually a sign journal. So the evidence of our children communicating with us is just priceless. There's just no words for it, really.
Wow. True. Yeah.
You know what I like is when other people tell me. I had a friend call and he goes, I got to tell you, I saw Garrett. I got to tell you. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, we're at the bar drinking. Well, I thought that sounded normal. We're at the bar drinking, and I had one too many, but I said to Garrett, I got to go because I work tomorrow. Garrett goes, well, that's okay. Let's have one more. And he said, no, Garrett, I gotta go to work, and come on, let's go. And he said, I'll call Uber. And Garrett said, don't call Uber. I can drive. And he said, I got a brand new truck out there. I said, I can drive. So he goes, are you sure? And so we went in the car. The truck started up and backed right into the wall. He said he just wanted to cry. He said, oh my God, my new truck. And he said, please make this a dream. Please make this a dream. And he said, when he opened his eyes, Garrett said, it was a dream, but I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah.
His truck was okay, but he said, I am with you.
Right.
So it was very powerful for them. And it's surprising how all of his really buddies all believe in it. They've all seen him where one of them saw him, and I saw Garrett. And then one of them saw, I guess a month later when I was talking, I saw Garrett, and he was wearing the exact same clothes that I saw him in. So we all know.
Make sure you tell them these are dreams, Vickie, so they understand. Because make sure you're clear that these are dreams that they're having. Because when the first one, it sounded like that really happened. That we were in a bar. It was a dream.
He didn't know it was a dream until he woke up, and he said, please. And it was a dream, but Garrett was not a dream.
Right.
So,
right.
Oh.
Right. All right. So no, I think these are great stories, and I think it's great for parents to not feel like they're totally cut off, that child is gone and is not anymore, a part of your life. And the comfort. I mean, Vickie, you've even had experiences, I know you've shared with me, where you've actually been in a dark place saying, I just want a hug or to feel you, and you felt a kiss on your cheek,
looking over my shoulder. I like Karen when your granddaughter, right? Or grandson.
My, there were a couple of them.
Over the rainbow.
Oh yes, my granddaughter would talk about him, and I said, "Have you seen Uncle Tathy?" And she goes, yes. And I said, where is he? And she said, he's in the blue. And I had a visit from him in a sleep state. And I asked him, and this was before she told me this. I said, where are you? And he said, a blue. But he spelled it different than BLUE. And she said the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was very powerful.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was only 4 at the time.
Wow. Yeah. And so I think, and whether it's a child or a spouse or a parent, look for signs. They want you to know that they're okay,
Yes.
and that they're around you.
Mhm.
They're there when you need that, you call them, you can feel their presence if you
Yes.
are open to it and believe in it.
Yes. It does seem like to
Yeah.
me, Dr. Laura, that in the beginning, the visits were very frequent, but they have seemed to slow down. I still get them, but the intensity and the frequency has definitely slowed down. It's been 3 years.
Right. Well, and I think Vickie has shared, or I don't know, I've read different things too, is they're going on with their new adventure too.
Right.
It's when you need them, they
Mhm.
feel then you call them back in. Vickie said Garrett got kind of irritated with her because he was busy wanting to do things, but he was concerned about her, and he would come back more at that, when she really needed him. Didn't he give you a message like, Mom, I
Yeah.
remember you sharing with me something.
Stop crying.
Yeah.
He has to come back every time I cry. But it's not like they give you a message and say, Mom, pick the numbers 12, 13 for the lottery, or
Darn.
a question and wait for an answer. He comes when he wants, and it is less for me as well, Karen. I think they're busier and we're busier.
Right.
And we're on a new journey, and we're supposed to do something. I don't know what it is. I got my real estate license, not that. Bookkeeping, I don't really want to do that.
Vickie, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I think all three of you, it's like, I can empathize, and I can, I don't even like to go there as a parent, what that pain is like. But for you, the three of you and your group, you guys understand that's like a part of your soul and heart being ripped away from you.
It's absolutely a part of you that's been ripped
Yes.
out.
And
You are raw.
so I just think that for what you're doing in this group, you're there for each other. That's a great support because you understand. You don't feel bad to say, well, it's been 2 or 3 years, because you understand what that's like.
Mhm.
And for somebody who's new, who just had this ripped out of their life, to hear other parents' stories of their journey and how you still might have really difficult days, and days are better sometimes, but sometimes you feel like, I'm sure it's just raw still at certain times, certain occasions, certain things you see or whatever.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. And last night we had 2 that are fairly new, just a couple months. Candy's an old soul. She knows so much. And these 2 are brand new. And the one said, every time I walk into the bedroom, I smell my daughter, the cologne, and we all go, embrace it, embrace it. This is what you want to feel. And so we're teaching one another, but we're all like sisters or brothers. We had a few guys that come in. Their feelings are just a little different. They're easier. I guess they cope with it differently. So a majority of us are all girls. All moms.
All moms.
Yeah. Well, I know you've shared that with me, and I'm sure fathers hurt too. Men tend to not like to share their feelings. They don't tend to like to go there. I think that's part of it. And
strong.
Also that child came from us.
Mm-hmm.
That's there's that bond there that's that's so cool. But I think a lot of it has to do with men sharing their feelings and not wanting to feel this. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. So I know, I always loved I always loved Sylvia Brown too. I used to read Sylvia Brown and her stories, and I love also hearing the stories of near-death experiences, the NDEs, talking about the other side and how beautiful and how wonderful it is. And I know one of my favorite books that I read was by Neil Donald Walsh about going home to God. And what I loved about that book was, because I think about when I make my transition, the only thing I feel really sad about is leaving my children. I mean, I think about that. That's the only reason otherwise I wouldn't care. But what Neil says is that because we are multidimensional, that when we make a transition, there's an aspect of that person on the other side. So even though you're here, you're also connecting on a higher level with them always too, and that brought me comfort to think of that,
I was told by a medium that I needed to understand that a part of me was on the other side as well.
Yes.
And it's odd because since my son's transition, and I don't know if, again, it's my conscious mind. Sometimes I feel like I get a fragment or a glimpse of the atmosphere and of the other side.
Oh, I just got God bumps, which means yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
It is.
And don't
It is.
forget-
It's like,
And nobody talks about that, Karen.
yeah, it's very fleeting. And I'm like, wait. I want to hold on. And it's like, I can't hold on to it for very long.
Right.
No.
Right. Candy, did you want to say something?
Dr. Laura,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I want to address the not leaving your children, because that was the hardest thing for me. My daughter had 3 children, and her husband had died of COVID a few months before.
Oh, wow.
My daughter had transitioned. Yes. So part of the suffering and shattering and trauma for me was these 3 children that were left. And I had a hard time reconciling that, because one thing we all have to learn to a myth we have to dispel is you're supposed to outlive your children. Well, all of us in this group know that's not true. That we don't, or that our children are supposed to outlive us. Excuse me.
Right.
And we all know that is a myth. That many people lose children, and we're raised to think that's not going to happen, but it does happen. But the other thing is, how could a mother leave her 3 children? And I wrestled with that. Here's what I know now. She never left them. As a matter of fact, she is so present in their lives, more present now than ever. And there is so much evidence. It's unbelievable how much evidence there is. The kind of things that have unfolded for my 8-year-old grandchild, my 14-year-old, my 20-year-old, who is just thriving in a new environment, these opportunities that have come to them. My daughter is behind all of it.
Yes.
So the idea that a mother doesn't want to leave their children, that's an erroneous belief. They don't. They parent from spirit, and they have so much more resources, authority. Angel, it's phenomenal the way my daughter is parenting these children. But it was very difficult initially for me to understand how could, you even question God. How could God take this mother from her children? Well, nothing happened. She's not lost, and she's not gone. She's very much present in their lives. I'm sorry to interrupt your flow there, but I just really felt I needed to say
love that.
As a mother,
I love it. And I believe you. I totally believe that. They say the veil is getting thinner between this dimension and the next dimension. And so I believe that. I remember one time I went to see somebody, they said, "Oh my God, you have like 14 spirits around you all the time guiding you." And I don't know who or what, but I do believe.
She needs 14.
Huh?
I said she needs 14.
I do. I need all the help I can
Vickie,
get.
Little monkey.
we all do.
We all,
Yeah. We all do. But anyway, I just want to mention, anybody who's watching, if you have any questions, if you're going to do anything, please don't hesitate to ask. There's no question that's too weird or too whatever. This isn't something that you hear every day on shows about life from the other side. it's not something that we like really promote at church or have. Well, we did have James Von Prague, but that he rented the building. But I think we need to be open to embracing different ideas and knowing that this isn't the beginning and the end right here. I mean, there is so much more to who we are. We are spiritual beings having this human experience, and I love that story, or that what you're telling me about, her children, how she's there, and and I don't believe this is my belief, that there are accidents in the universe. I believe that things are planned, and this is when we go, because it's time for us to move on to whatever our next adventure, our next experience is. But it's hard for us. They're not grieving on the other side. We're the ones that feel the loss. They don't feel any loss, because, like you're all saying, they're still with us.
Right.
Garrett said to me one time, he said, "Mom, I had to be the first to go in our family." And I wanted to go, why? And I couldn't understand that comment. My sister then died 5 months later, but we hadn't been speaking for a very long time. And she came to his celebration of life, which was a shock that she would come. Because when he was making out his wedding list, I said, "No, take her off. She won't come." "Oh, Uncle Mike, nah, he won't come." And it brought my whole family together. They were all, my brother was there at the celebration of life. And I give a lot of thanks to Dr. Joe, because Laura was out of town. And within 8 days, which he said is too soon to have celebration of life. But for me, it was the best way for me to start moving on and to learn more. But all his friends were there. The center was packed, and it was so sad because the kids were in shock. They'd all been to Stagecoach and Coachella, and the day before was a swim party for the birthdays, and then we took him out to dinner for his birthday, and then the next day he dies, and he was alone. So I think the hummingbird is a sense of I'm free, I'm okay, and he came to all of them, like giving them permission. And Dr. Joe had a wonderful celebration of life, and even wheelbarrowed in Bud Light, and all of us could hear the snap as they were all popping over, and we all cheered to him. And I know he was there, and I know that was a great way that he'd appreciate going.
Right. Oh no, there's so many signs. And Vickie, I love too how you're helping so many people. And Vickie, you're working on a book. Tell people what you've done. You took all the messages, or I mean,
when this happens, you go brain dead. And I really think the shock, you start losing brain waves.
You do.
And I got scared because I wasn't remembering things. I was in such a dark place that I decided I had to use my brain, and I studied for the real estate. Then I passed it the first time. That's not a real big money maker, but I'm doing something, and I think I have to keep busy. I've started a book on stories of all the connections she's made, or I have had, since my whole life. I've had a couple, now I think of them as a near-death experience, but it was like this, events. And the book is that, plus when Garrett died, I write to him in the beginning every night, my feelings of how could you go, why did you go, or please God, just let him be alive, really be alive, and I'll pray that he's okay. All these different mixed feelings that you go through. And as the days go, it's been, I don't know how many days now, 400, whatever it was. I think it was 899. But anyway, how much I have grown and accepted, and things that he has come to me and said to me, and experiences from everybody that I know I can get better. And I figure in my book, if somebody was like in their 6 month thinking, I can't go anymore, they would be able to flip to a page and see the difference, the progress that is made. And everybody progresses differently. There's no rules.
Right.
And Karen, I feel I am with him. I'm having another life with him. And one night, I've always wanted to go to the Mardi Gras. And I was at the Mardi Gras, and I saw my father, my mother, my aunt. I
They were
saw
having a party.
my sister, and he was next to me, and I said, God, Karen, and we're all looking, I'm laughing, and then I looked at him and I said, I'm an observer. I'm not really there. And he goes, no, Mom, it's not your time.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
wow.
What about you, Karen? Are you doing any journaling, or how are you? What are you doing as you progress?
Yes, it seems like most of my visits are always the visual ones anyway, or when I'm sleeping. And I know the difference between a dream and a true visit, and I journal the visits. And when things in the beginning, like I was saying, he would move objects and that type of thing, I did journal that. And if something happens, then I do journal that as well. And I really try to be aware of, for example, we were traveling in Florida last week, and this was so random. We were in this cute little cafe, and I was looking at the motif and the everything, and I said in my mind, Teddy, what do you think about this? And all of a sudden, a light starts to swing, and I looked at my husband and said, he's with us. It's just things like that. I mean, I was looking at the bar, and I thought, that's really cool, He would like this place because we're from the Southeast, and he was very much a Southern boy, and it was called Fancy Southern Gourmet Cafe, and he was there. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind, and I kept looking at the chair beside my husband. It was like, I know he's sitting in that chair, and I was really looking like, okay. But I did ask him once in his picture, I'm like, why can't I see you? Why don't you appear to me? Because you hear about people saying, I saw them when they're awake. And it was clear. I've heard his voice 4 times clearly, and it's always over my right shoulder. He said, because I'm not in that form anymore.
Ooh.
So, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. Wow. That is so wonderful. Now, Candy, what about you? Well, you said you've been doing a lot. You've been writing a lot too, haven't you?
I've just been documenting the signs because I like kind of what Vickie said. But they call it grief fog. When you have a trauma, it makes it difficult to remember things. So, but I wasn't doing it for any purpose other than just for my own, recollections.
Right.
So I'm new into my grief. It's just been 6 months. I have had some interaction with a couple mediums. I've had some readings, and my daughter has come through to say that I have a purpose. But I love what you said, Dr. Laura, that this is our purpose, because when you have such a transforming experience, you feel like you have to do something. So that was really comforting for me to hear you say that, like, this is enough. We don't all have to write books, and we don't all have to, and I love the ones that do. And you should see the stack of books I have. It's enormous, because, when you have this experience, you want to, what you talked about, soul contracts. I have about 10 books on soul contracts. Yes. I have about 10 books on NDEs. I mean, I have become like this voracious reader of anything related to this, but I don't particularly feel the need to tell my particular story, or, I will probably always be involved in helping parents heal, because like what Vickie said, for the people who come in to reach a hand back and to help pull them, guide them forward through this journey. And by the way, they're not all woo-woo. Like, I was a very open person, but we get plenty of people that come in that are atheists, that are non-believers, but they stumble into this group and not really having this, this belief. And when the evidence just smacks you upside the head, you can't deny it any further. But I don't really have an intention of doing anything other than just living in the moment and seeing what life is and embracing that. And if there's a purpose, it'll be revealed.
Right. Oh, my sound there.
Purpose is in the group. That's why I chose Karen and Candy. And if I was unable to make a meeting, or if I do something, we code through the team. It's not like I'm just the affiliator. We all tell our stories. We all jump in to help one another. And I consider them all an affiliate. I just happened to start it out in the desert, but you're a great symbolic help parents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no. And you don't know in the future, Candy, who you'll come into contact with that needs that. And what I always even tell our practitioners, they'll find you. They'll be guided to you guys. You'll go, wow, how did you even, and because they need the help. They need somebody there to do what you're doing, to help other parents, and not to feel alone, or not to feel, I would think, no, you don't understand what I'm going through. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what I said. If somebody came to me for counseling, I would rather refer them to I would sit with them, but I referred people to Vickie's group just because I know how unique that is. We have another grief group on Tuesday for any kind of grief, whether it's child or spouse or whatever. But this to me is a very specific type of grief
It is.
that people, they need to be with somebody who really has been there.
You do. I didn't realize that. I thought, and my brother was what they call an Irish twin. And that was a really tough loss for me. He's not lost, but that was a tough change in my life. I thought I knew all I needed to know about grief. I really did. And a lot of the therapists, and I've had trauma therapists and grief therapists, unless they've lost a child, it's not the same. And I don't want to dismiss anybody's grief experience or anything like that. But when it's your flesh and blood and it's your job to make, and you're not supposed to outlive them, it takes a special kind of a relationship and understanding for someone to really know what that feels like. And this group has helped me more than any of the therapists, and I appreciate you saying that. And again, I don't want to dismiss any grief group or the impact and power of that. Anybody's grief, there's not any way to compare or quantify. I really should just only speak for myself in that losing my mother, my father, my grandparents, my dearly, my close brother, I had no idea what it was like to lose a child. It's very, very different. It's not the same type of, it's shattering. It's beyond grief for us. But the other, and there's in Helping Parents Heal nationally, there's 15,000 of us, and just in that group. But it's so wonderful. Oh yeah, it's worldwide. Yeah. Thank you, Vickie. Of course, she knows. It's all over the world, and but it's only parents who understand each other. But to have a local group is even nicer. Just to have this close community of people that get it. But anyway, I appreciate you saying that. And I saw your program with how do you say his name? Yes, Michael. Yes, Reverend Michael. I loved what he had to say about grief, and I find his words and approach very healing. So there just is another piece of it for the grieving parents.
Well, thank you. But right. And anytime you can share and just be able to feel safe, to feel your feelings and to share what you're going through is so important, so important. And so, yes, Reverend Michael meets every Tuesday. You can go on our website and find out. And Vickie, you guys meet what Wednesday of the month?
Yeah, the second Wednesday of each month on Zoom. And the center has my phone number, and they will give it to you. I don't know. Some people get my number from Eisenhower. Well, I don't know. We all just meet, or I get a phone call.
And it would be nice when you can meet in person again, and come to the center and have your meetings, or wherever you want to have your meetings. But but I just want people to know that even with COVID and lockdown, although things are opening up now more, please know that don't be alone with your grief. I mean, unless you feel like some people do need to be alone, but when you're ready to share and, know that there are people out there that understand what you're going through and they're doing great, great work. And the one thing I love is look for signs from them, right? That's, I think, is a huge takeaway, to know that they're there, to look for those signs. And, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Vickie, we're almost out of time. Anything you want to say in closing before we go?
No, I am thankful for the group. I'm thankful I used to have it at the center where we could meet in person, which was fun. But I'm grateful for everything I've learned from the Science of Mind Center. I don't think I would have made it without knowing I can be open to anything. And it helped me through the whole thing. And the group really is helpful. I had one lady that was in the dark place for 2.5 years. And she's out, she's speaking out now, and she gives thanks to the group. We all help one another. It's not just me. I just answer the phone whenever they call, anytime, all night, when somebody is in shock. But we all help one another, and there is something better. They're in a better place, and you can feel their presence if you're open to it and not afraid. Because a lot of people are afraid. They feel something. But now we've all brought it forth where you can feel everything is okay.
Oh, well, thank you, Vickie. Thank you for what you're doing. And also, Candy, thank you for being here and sharing your story. So I just want to remind you to please support the center. There's a button there you can hit or go to PayPal and make a donation. And, for any of you that are out there that maybe have lost a loved one and stuff, reach out. We have practitioners here. We have groups that meet. It's just important. I don't want people to feel this. To me, would probably be one of the toughest times with COVID. Candy, you lost your daughter, 6 months ago. We were right in the middle of this. And so, I'm happy for all of you. I want to remind you that next week I start my book study on Catherine Ponder's book, the spirit. I can't remember the spiritual dynamics of healing, and it's all about healing, and it's a really powerful book. And so I hope you join me with that. And I want to thank you, ladies, again for taking the time and for being here. And I so appreciate what you do. And I know when I got the call, I was in Brazil with John of God, and I got a message. I got a text message from a dear friend that was mutual friends with Vickie. Can you call me right away? And then my son had texted me too first about, Mom, text me some. And then after that, I got another text. Something happened with Vickie that I need to talk to you. And my thought was something happened to Vickie. And I was in shock, felt so helpless, being so far away that I couldn't attend. But I did watch the celebration of life. They live streamed it, and I watched it, and it was an amazing service. I've never seen beer in our sanctuary before.
It's truly parted like a heart.
And it was a true celebration of life. So make sure whoever makes their I'm saying not necessarily you have to have beer there, but I'm saying that's what that is, a celebration of who that person is and continues to be, and what they meant and how they touched your heart in this life. Because they're going to hear it. And I mean, they hear everything, but it's a special time. So I'm just saying that make it a celebration. We're here to live each moment and to have our experiences, and we take those with us. So thank you, ladies. Blessings to you. Continue what
Thank
you're
you.
doing. You're making a difference in the
Thank you.
world. So
Thank you.
Aw.
And all
everyone
Thank
have
you.
a great week, and I'll see you next week.
right,
Bye.
thank you.